Hey guys, thanks so much for joining me for this update. I'm going to share with you a little bit about my brain. I'm going to brag about my brain if I can, and share with you the results of my brain scan. Some of you have been on this journey with me since the beginning, and I talked a little bit about it on Snapchat. Today I wanted to share, and I got so many questions there that I felt like I needed to have a format where I could speak kind of in depth and share with you exactly how I did this, and then also show you, give you proof, because that's what I needed. I don't know about you, but sometimes when you do things that are supposed to be good for you and you think it's good for you, but you just don't know, and it's hard to do, or it's hard to keep yourself accountable. Hi guys, how are you? Hi Sandy, great to have you on. Thanks for jumping on, you guys, and thanks for sharing. So I'm going to share with you the results of my brain scan, and more importantly, I'm going to tell you what you can do. The reason why I want to show you my results, thanks Julie, hi Alicia, hi Jesse. The reason why I want to show you my results is because if you're like me, I was kind of a skeptic about a lot of this. Really? You want me to do what? Meditation? That seems like a waste of time. A lot of these things are I don't know, they're not comfortable for type A's, should we say? And a lot of these things I felt like, well, I kind of need to see proof, but I didn't have a choice, because I wasn't going to be able to see proof unless I actually did these things. And unlike a lot of people, because a lot of people can't afford to go and do multiple brain scans. It's not covered by insurance. Why? Because it has to do with health, and insurance only covers things when you're sick. Nothing's covered if you actually want to be healthy or stay healthy or prevent disease. None of that's covered. The only thing that's covered is if you're sick and you want drugs. So, God bless me. God bless the situation I'm in, that I actually could afford to do the testing, right? And I just feel like I have an obligation then to share it with you. Thanks. Hi, Craig. How are you? Hi, Jamie. What's going on? Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so let me show you. You ready? You should share this right now if you're going to, because I'm about to reveal the before, and I don't want people to miss that, because I'm going to show you the after. Okay. So first, let me say this. This all started because I have a podcast called The Chalene Show. Write that down and subscribe if you don't already. And one of the I'm going to tell you a little story. Lean in close, because I'm going to tell you a little story. It's story time. Get your cup of coffee, get your tea. I'm going to tell you a story. So I did a podcast with Dr. Daniel Amen, and the subject of it, I think, was we were going to talk about ADHD. And while I was on the call with him doing the podcast, I was joking with him, and I said, I think I've got adult ADD. I was kind of joking, because I didn't even know adults could have ADD. And he said, well, it's very likely you do. Well, let's go through the checklist. And I'm like, okay. So he said, do you easily lose your train of focus? Do you find it irritating when you're distracted? Do you lose things? Do you procrastinate? Do you show up late? Are you constantly forgetting things? Are you constantly walking to rooms and forgetting why you were there? Are you sometimes in the middle of something? You guys are all giving me hearts because I'm describing you, right? Are you sometimes in the middle of something and then you realize that too much time has passed and you were supposed to be doing something else? Do you feel very frustrated? Do you feel like the harder you focus, the more distant things become and the more distracted you feel? I'm like, yes, yes, yes. I answered yes to everything on his list. So when I finished the podcast, he said, you should definitely come in and have your brain scanned. And I said, really? Okay. I know my problem. I'm just not a really good student. I'm not good at focusing, but I've never been great at focusing. But I'll come. That sounds like fun. So I'll come in and do the brain scan. I went in to do the brain scan. Now, mind you, before I had the brain scan, in my little mind, you see, in my fantasy world, I thought that they were going to scan my brain, and the tech would be like, doctor, get in here. We have never seen a brain like this before. Now, doctor, we have got ourselves a genius on a scale that we don't even have colors on the spectrum for the genius in this brain. That's what I thought would happen. It didn't go quite like that. And my first indication should have been, they shoot this radioactive dye in your vein. And once the radioactive dye goes into your brain, it goes into your vein and then into your brain. And then what they have you do is they have you focus on kind of boring, intense tasks. So one of the tasks, for example, is you watch letters flash up on the screen. A, D, T, V, R, U. And you're told to hit the space bar every time you see the letter, any letter. But don't hit the space bar when you see an X. And I'm like, easy. So the letters are like T, V. Okay, you do it yourself right now. So like every time I say a letter, you tap your table or your phone or wherever you're at, just tap. But if I say the letter X, don't tap. And you want to do it as fast as you can. Okay? T, V, R, J, D, X, T, R, B, C, X. And every time I'm like, I just kept hitting X, right? And then it slows down. Then it's like B, C. Then guess what happened? When it slowed down, this is a true story, I fell asleep. Like it slowed down for milliseconds and I was like, I fell asleep in my genius test. So I'm like, okay, this ain't gonna go so well. I literally fell asleep. Not good. Yeah. Then they put you into a machine that's called a spectrogram or something, a Spect machine, and they put you in that and they strap your head down. You can't move your head for 20 minutes and they scan your brain. And then they look at where blood flow is happening to your brain, and you do this multiple times over the course of 3 days. And you measure your brain function while you're focused, while you're relaxed, and while you're concentrating. You do all of these different tests and they're measuring brain waves, right? Yeah. And so thanks, Kat. So then I get to see the results. Didn't go so well. First of all, the doctor who I consulted with the first time, she was like, "No, so you actually graduated college?" I'm like, "Yes, thank you." She's like, "Don't take this the wrong way, but I'm good for you." Like, kind of shocked. So here's my brain, the before. So you see these holes? They're not really holes, but this is dead area of the brain. So those are the result, and these result of concussions, most likely. And then all of this lumpy, bumpy stuff was also a concern because it shouldn't look like that. This is not necessarily a picture of a healthy brain. And then here's the bottom side of my brain where you can see, I'll flip it this way. So you can see these two, this is all where there's no blood flow. So there's no activity here. This is the prefrontal cortex. This is what's responsible for decision making, good judgment, so many things. Okay. What's even worse than that was what happened when we took a look at what was happening inside my brain. So, for example, here's my prefrontal cortex. There's zero, I am not kidding, zero activity right here. I'm like, are you sure you have the right scans? I did see a young man sitting in the lobby, and I'm just saying, like, are you sure you have the right scans? Yeah. And back here, okay, so this one's really interesting. This one back here. So this is, this area of the brain is the occipital lobe. And the occipital lobe is responsible for your spatial relationship, for problem solving, coordination, clumsiness, if you will. And so one of the reasons why I was really frustrated with my brain, and which is why I was happy to go in and have it scanned, is because I felt like my personality was changing, because I'm like a happy, upbeat person. But I got to this point where all my life I've had a really, really difficult time focusing. You guys have heard me talk about that a lot. And I just thought it was because I wasn't as smart as everyone else. So like I really, really had to do extra things. Like I couldn't study like everybody else could. I couldn't have any sound on, and I had to do all these different, like, I guess I call them like workarounds in order to get anything accomplished or to stay focused or to get through a class. Like, my grades were horrible in school, unless it was incredibly interesting, and then I would become obsessive. Then I couldn't like get enough. Then I wanted to learn more. Then I wanted to like just never, I couldn't focus on anything but like one subject. So it wasn't uncommon for me to get like D's in everything and then like an A plus in one class. And then moving into my adult life, I found myself, it was getting tougher and tougher to focus. Like, literally, my husband would walk in the room, and if I was trying to think through what I had to do in the next hour, and I was sitting there like this, and if he walked in the room, I'd be like, "You're just gonna walk in the room like that, huh? You're just gonna interrupt my train of thought by walking in the room, huh?" Like, I was getting really irritable and angry. I couldn't go into my office. We've got a beautiful, lovely office. I like everyone that I work with, but I couldn't go into my office because I could not work there. We have a fairly nice size home. It's got 3 floors. It's got like 8 bedrooms. It's got a beautiful, lovely office. It's a nice home. I only tell you that because it got to a point with my ADD that we have a closet. This is a true story. You can ask anyone. We have a closet on the 3rd floor in the basement, literally, that is about as wide as my shoulders. And I padded the room with soundproofing and had a desk built into that closet so I could go down there and work, because literally if I could hear people walking in the house, or if I could hear a TV, or if I could hear conversations or music or noise or the landscaping, I couldn't work. I just couldn't focus. And I just thought, that's just my brain. That's just who I am. Like, I really thought that was, I was annoyed by it, and I knew it was changing my personality, but I also thought that's just my brain. And it was my brain. Little did I know I could change my brain. It's interesting how many of you feel like this is similar. That's crazy. Well, I'm glad you're here then, because this is going to be very helpful to you, because it was my brain, but I was able to change it. So when I got the diagnosis, there are 7 types of ADD. I want to say this to those of you who have ADD, or you have children who have ADD or autism or any type of neurological disorder. And I'm going to say something that is pretty controversial right now, and it may offend some of you. How dare you let a doctor treat an organ without looking at it? Would you let a doctor treat you for cancer without actually looking at an organ to determine if in fact you had cancer? Why do we treat the brain without looking at it? Why are we giving our children medicine and medicating them because we think there's something going on in their brain, and we haven't even freaking looked at their brain? How dare you spend thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on your own fitness pursuits, and you have a child who has a neurological disorder and they're suffering needlessly, and no one has looked at their brain. Is a brain Spect expensive? It is. I think it's about $1,500. But what is the rest of your child's life worth? What is the rest of your life worth? What is it worth to you to not have to be medicated, to not have to suffer needlessly? Okay, I'll get off my soapbox. So I went and did this, and I'm encouraging everyone else to do it too. It's called a brain Spect. The expert in this field is Dr. Daniel Amen. There are other people who do this as well, but he's got several clinics around the country. And what they do is they actually look at your brain. So not only did I know that I had ADD, I knew what type of ADD I had. Some ADDs, if you put a child on ADD who has a certain type of, if you put a child on medication who has a certain type of ADD, like Ring of Fire, it can increase their anxiety levels. It can make them hyperactive. It can make them depressed, suicidal. So that we're just throwing drugs at kids because there's something going on in their brains, and we're like, well, it must be ADD. Let's give them Adderall. Let's give them, let's give them Ritalin. That just doesn't make sense, because we have to look at the organ. We have to look at the most important part of our bodies, which is our brain. And we can do that. We can do that. So it's a shame that it's not covered by most insurances, but maybe yours will. And either way, if it were my kid, if it were my brain, it was my brain, you save up for it and you do it. So anyways, after I had that diagnosis and learned that I had inattentive ADD, and I had a damaged brain. I had brain damage. I had brain damage in areas of my brain that had died from earlier concussions, just childhood stuff. Like we rode motorcycles when we were kids, we crashed them. When I was in high school, I got in a couple of car accidents, one of which I got projected through the moonroof. I got a concussion. I got a concussion in a boating accident. So I had 3 pretty major concussions and probably lots of little ones. But more importantly, I had this kind of very unattractive brain, this dippling, if you will, and that we tried to get to the bottom of. So they sent me to do a sleep study, which was kind of a waste of time if I had just been honest with them. If I had just been honest, I could have saved myself having to go to the sleep study. And what we realized is that another part of the... One thing I was doing that was making matters worse is I wasn't sleeping. Not because I couldn't sleep, but because I didn't want to sleep. So for about 20 years, 15 years, I went to bed most nights. Oh, wait a second. I got into bed most nights around 10, and I went to sleep most nights around 12:31, and I would wake up around 4:30 every single day to go teach a fitness class. Because my mind believed, I don't feel tired. There's so much I want to do. I love life. And look, I'm doing something so healthy. I'm healthier than the rest of the population. I'm going to exercise every morning at 4:30 a.m. Look how healthy I am. I'm healthy. Look at how routine I am. Look at how I've got this amazing morning routine where I wake up every day at 4:30 and go teach a fitness class. Well, little did I know that by thinking I was taking care of my body and ignoring my brain, I was shortening my lifespan. And I was definitely creating a life that it wasn't fun to have to live in that little closet and to feel so irritated all the time by distraction. Okay, so can I show you the after? Yeah, I didn't want to sleep. I know I didn't like, to this day, I still would rather be awake. I'm never tired. I like life. There's a lot of things I want to do. I want to learn. I'm just like, everything's interesting to me. So sleeping, I just know it's good for me. So I sleep now. So let me show you what my brain looks like now, because 2 years to the date, I had my scan again, following their protocol. You ready? This is really exciting. It makes me want to cry. Okay. This is crazy. This is crazy town right now. Okay, so here's before. Here's before. After. Before. Holes. After. Dude, I've regenerated brain. A freaking regenerated brain. Look at that. Do you know what Dr. Amen said when he looked at this? He said, stunning. I was like, thank you. Stunning. Okay, wait. So this is very indicative of the ADD. So you see the dark holes. This is the ADD. Look at that. You want to see my ADD after? Or shall I say lack thereof? Look. Before, after. Almost gone. Before, after. Dude. Look at these. I'm really quite impressed by myself, I gotta tell you. It makes me want to cry. Okay, I'll show you some more. It makes me emotional. It makes me very emotional. Because when I sat in that office, he told me my brain was about 20 years older, looked about 20 years older than it should, and that I was well on my way to Alzheimer's. Not diagnosed with Alzheimer's, but on my way. And that was a paradigm shift for me. That was the day. That was the day. Okay, this is really cool. Let me show you this one. Hold on. These are my afters. Oh, wait, where's my before? Oh, there we go. Okay. This is amazing to me. Just amazing. Okay. So here, I'll try to do it like this. Here's my before. Okay, here's my before. 0 activity in the frontal lobe, prefrontal cortex. Temporal lobes, very, very little activity in the temporal lobes. And this is what we call the occipital lobe. And there's like this, he said, is just, he literally said it's asleep. Asleep. Prefrontal lobe, like where we make good, just look at where I was, look at how much red and white. So where you see red and white is where you're seeing activity. He said this brain was asleep, and this was during focus. This brain, this is where we make good judgment and decision making, asleep. Not good. Okay, you ready? Here's my after. Look at the comparison. What? Dude, look at this. Hey, how you like me now? Look at decisions, yes. Do you see how little, like, is it just me or do you see a happy face? Is it me? Or is this like a freaking happy brain? Like, am I seeing things? Is this baby Jesus? Is this just a happy face? Look at how, wah, wah. And then like, hey, like I think this face is even sticking its tongue out at me. Dude. Are you like do you have a little bit of brain envy right now? So, like a lot of people like to show off their before and afters of them in a bikini. I'm like, so what? Let me see your brain. Really? Well, let's scan your brain and see your photos. How you like me now? How I did it. 7 steps. You ready? Grab a pen and a piece of paper because I'm gonna share with you how I did it. I'll tell you how I did it. Okay, but before I do tell you that, grab a pen and a piece of paper because I want you to write these things down. I didn't want to do any of these things. None of them. Because I was like, oh, really? Isn't there a pill I can take? Can't you give me a shot? Isn't there some kind of special treatment? Like, that's what I want. I'm like, what? I have to meditate? Oh, brother. Like, literally, that was me. I'm like, oh, come on. Isn't there listen, I'll write you a check. Isn't there some kind of fancy thing you can hook me up to? Like, aren't there some electrodes or something? Let's get this over with. Like, that was my mentality. I literally was, like, annoyed. I'm like, I have to do what? Okay, first thing they said is, you will only heal your brain unless you do some really important things. The first of which is sleep. You have got to get sleep. I took that pretty seriously because I left there very upset. So as I told you, I've been teaching getting up at 4:30 every morning and teaching a 5:30 a.m. class for 15 years. The next week, I gave my class up. I haven't taught at 5:30 a.m. in 2 years since the date I got the results of that scan. And I literally forced myself to go to bed a little earlier, but wake up much later. And I learned how to sleep better. So if I can give you a specific recommendation, I would tell you to buy the book called Sleep Smarter by Sean Stevenson. It's a great book, and it really worked for me. There's a lot of great books out there on sleep. Another expert I would tell you to look at is Dr. Bruce, and I've recently did an interview with him on my podcast. You can find that on the Chalene show. Those are 2 amazing experts on sleep, but I had to sleep. And you don't necessarily need 8 hours, while some people do. I need about 7.5 hours of sleep. That is ideal for me. I get the maximum number of cycles of REM, which is what you need, and I just force myself to sleep later. There's always like, go to bed earlier, go to bed. I try, and I'm just gonna be honest with you and say, I'm going to bed earlier. I go to bed like now around 10:30 or 11. I was going to bed around 12:30, sometimes 1. But I sleep later, and I force myself to do that. And I have lots of techniques. I keep the room dark. I wear a special sleep mask now. I keep a dissolvable xylitol mint in the top corner of my jaw, which keeps my mouth watered all night. These are some of the things I do to help me sleep. Here's number 2. Meditation type activities. Is that better than meditation? Meditation type activities. So for the first 3 months, I forced myself to meditate, and I just hated it. I'm like, this is more stressful, I think, than it should be, because I'm not looking forward to it. And the entire time I'm doing it, I'm beating myself up saying, you're not doing it right. You're not doing it right. Why are you thinking about Facebook? Why are you thinking about what you're going to do later today? Why are you paying attention to what's going on over there? Like, I would beat myself up when I was doing meditation. I'm like, this can't be good for me, because I'm not enjoying any minute of it. And I kept doing it and doing it and doing it. Yeah, I got better at it, but I just didn't like it, look forward to it so much. So I started doing some research on what's happening in the brain. Why is it that meditation is recommended? And I started looking at other people who teach meditation type behaviors, and realized that there are other things you can do for your brain that are very meditative like. It puts you in that same type of Zen where you're not thinking about a million things, you're just quietly inwardly focused. And one of the things that works very nicely, much the same way that meditation does, is prayer. So I learned how to pray out loud, which I'd never done. I always did that like this. That's how I would pray. I hadn't practiced praying out loud. And, if you're not someone who prays, maybe it's doing something else that's like meditation or like prayer. And for me, it meant just very quietly speaking my prayers. And if I did that outside in nature, especially if I was like sitting outside in a chair, without my phone, without distraction, just taking in nature, that felt good, and I really looked forward to it. Another thing that I found works great for me, and I want to share this with you, especially for those of you who are like not into meditation, is I will take about a 30-minute power walk outside with headphones on. My phone has to go on airplane mode, and I listen to quotes set to relaxing music. So I'll share a link to that. In fact, I'm going to do a podcast so you get an idea of like what this sounds like, and I'll do a podcast. So subscribe to the Chalene Show, and I'll do that this weekend. It'll be up shortly. But basically, it's because sometimes those people who do like guided meditations, I'm like, this is so corny. Like, I downloaded so many of them. I'm like, what? And now feel your body floating in a cloud. I'm always like, what am I doing? What is my body? Like, I would laugh because some of them are like, okay, and this voice, what is up with this voice? Like, I couldn't. I'm like, no. So I have this, I listen to these, I listen to quotes from some of my favorite philosophers, but not a book. It's different. And it's got very soothing music, but without doing that weird, like, and now you're relaxed. Like, that's great for some people, but I'm like, what? It just doesn't work for me. So you have to figure out what works yes, you're not the only one, Jane. Yeah, you have to figure out like what works for you. And like half the time I couldn't get past their voices where they're like, and in this lesson, we will be meditating. I'm like, why do we have so much air in our breath? Why is your voice so soft? Like, it's weird. I can't, it freaks me out. So I do so like, just, we can't force everything onto everyone. Does that make sense? Like, you're just like, I should like meditation because everybody likes it. I guess I should like it too. Well, maybe not. Like, maybe you should figure out like what happens in your brain. So sleep, meditation. Number 3 was the advice they said to eat right. I'm like, okay, check. I've already got that one. Check. I don't have to fix that. I already eat right. We're going to come back to that one. Number 4 was they said you've got to reduce your stress. And I'm like, I'm not stressed. They're like, well, even though you're saying you're not stressed, your brain is saying you are. So I'm like, oh, I know that I'm not. Well, I had my cortisol levels checked. I did a blood test, and sure enough, I was very stressed. So that meant I had to scale back, take projects off my plate, cancel some things, do less, hustle less, and chill. And I gave my husband permission to, anytime I was like, oh, we should do this, we should do that, we should do this, he would say, I don't think we should. And just gave him permission to slow my roll. Number 6. Okay, so that's what I did before I get to number 6. I did the first 4 things for the first year. Slept more, practice meditative type behaviors, like running, like walking, like outside sitting and praying out loud, and some meditation. Number 4 was so it was sleep, meditative type behaviors, eat right, and less stress. So I did those 4 the first year. And at the end of the first year, at the Amen Clinic, they said, okay, we should probably schedule you for a follow-up scan to see how your brain's doing. And I was like, I don't feel any different, so I don't want to do the scan. And they said, do you feel better? And I'm like, I think so. I don't know. But all I knew is I was not going to do the scan. It's kind of like if you're dieting and someone's like, okay, it's weigh-in day, and you're like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Right? And every time I was like about to schedule a scan, I'm like, oh, I had a really bad week of sleep. I can't scan. Like as if like one night of sleep or like messing up one meal is going to, affect your weight. Messing up one meal is not going to affect your weight. Neither is not sleeping well one night. But I didn't want to do the scan. So I literally put it off for a whole nother year. And then at about a year and 6 months, my doctor said again, we need to schedule your follow-up scan. And I said, okay, let me look at that list of things that I should be doing again. Let me just double check it. First 4 done. Sleep, meditation, eat right, less stress. What are the other ones? They were heal your gut, improve your gut health. I'm like, gut health? Well, my digestion's fine. I'm very regular, thank you. So I don't have an issue with gut health. And they kept saying, because that and your nutrition will really improve. I'm like, my nutrition? Well, you know what I'll do? I'm going to go get a nutrition panel. And I'm just going to prove to you that my nutrition is perfect. You're going to like put my score up on a bulletin board. Let me just show you. So let me just go get a nutrition panel. So I went and did a nutrition panel with an integrative medical professional, a medical doctor in Los Angeles, Dr. Dawn DeSilvia. And, she's amazing. So I did my nutrition panel with her. And when it came back, it was like as if, like it was somebody else's results. Like I was deficient in every protein. I was deficient in all my vitamin Bs. I was deficient in vitamin D. I was deficient. I was like, are you kidding me right now? Whose results are these? Like the nutrition results of someone who has like horrible nutrition. I was like embarrassed. I was like, I swear to God, follow me with a hidden camera if you want. You will see exactly what I eat. I don't eat bad. I eat everything clean. Are you telling, like, this looks like I've been eating donuts. I'd be happy to. Are you kidding me? And we figured out that the only explanation was leaky gut. So what that means is if your gut should have these tight connections, right? Tight gap connections. And your intestinal wall, right? But if you've been doing things that damage your intestinal wall, like eating inflammatory foods, like being exposed to toxins, like growing up in an area where there's lots of glyphosate or the farming area, high stress. There's so many things that doing antibiotics a lot as a child or as an adult, and I've done so many antibiotics. So what that means then is those tight junctions loosen, and then no matter what you're eating, the food, just like through a pair of fishnet stockings, just slips through all the nutrients. So no matter what I was eating, it didn't matter. I wasn't absorbing it. And that, my friends, set me on this journey to make sure that it wasn't a waste of my time that I was eating healthy. I needed to make sure all those nutrients were being absorbed. So I started understanding the connection between your gut and your brain, the connection between our gut and Alzheimer's, the connection between our gut and autism, and all of these neurological disorders like MS, and all of these things, depression, anxiety, it all connects to our gut health. And if I could heal my ADD and improve my brain and actually get better results from my workouts and have a better body and have more energy and feel amazing by improving my gut health, sign me up. I was like, what? I didn't know that was like a thing I should pay attention to. So I started like, okay, we are on this. So for the last year, I've been working exclusively on interviewing every single expert. I've literally interviewed over 50 experts on gut health and how that improves our metabolic function, Oh, that's a long message. I'm going to have to go back and read that. Miss Phillips. Hi, Kathy. And just focusing myself on healing my gut. So I started doing that a year ago. 4 months ago, I started doing hyperbaric oxygen therapy. That's a pretty extreme treatment, but I was like, okay, look, if I'm going to take this test again, I might as well do that. So I've done 10 sessions of hyperbaric oxygen chamber treatment. That's when you go into a enclosed, it's kind of like a chamber, if you will. There's soft chambers and hard chambers. You go into a chamber. They make the atmospheric pressure the equivalent to something below sea level. So if 1 is just at sea level, then if you go to like 1.4, that's I think 40 feet below sea level. And so you can go all the way down to like about 60 feet below sea level in terms of atmospheric pressure. You don't actually go below sea level. You're in a chamber where they pressurize it, kind of like being in an airplane cabin, so that the pressure is the equivalent of being below sea level, and then you breathe in pure oxygenated air. And what that does is it improves your mitochondrial strength. Your mitochondria is, as you know this from school, the powerhouse of your cell. And everything in our bodies revolves around how healthy our mitochondria are, our cells. So this is hyperbaric oxygen chamber treatment, also about $150. Sometimes you can find around $100 per session and that is approved by the FDA for things like wound care, for injuries related to smoke inhalation. Firefighters use it, people coming back from war. But it should be approved, and I don't know why it isn't, because the astonishing recoveries we've been seeing with children who have autism and Asperger's and dementia and warding off Alzheimer's, it's just remarkable. I had a friend, Kevin Richards, who had Bell's palsy, where one side of your face, you get a virus that attacks a nerve in the face, and one side of his face went completely paralyzed. And this is something that usually takes about 18 months to recover from. Well, Kevin started doing his research. He's like, I'm going to go do hyperbaric oxygen chamber treatment. And after like 2 sessions, I was like, okay, sign me up. I'm in. My son we thought he tore his rotator cuff while he was in high school, and they told him, you're going to have it operated on. He's a quarterback. And so another doctor said, why don't you consider trying some hyperbaric oxygen chamber treatment to see if you can't heal that naturally first? What's the harm? So he did that. He did like 5 sessions. He's like, okay, it's like healed. I'm like, okay, I'm sufficiently convinced. So I've done about 15 hyperbaric oxygen chamber treatments before I did my retest. And then I also, again, just like, what else can I do? Because I want to pass this test, if you will. I also started treating with glutathione. Glutathione is like the ultimate, and we produce glutathione in our body naturally, but it is the ultimate source for our immune system, and again, for mitochondrial health. So I thought, all right, well, I'll supplement by doing glutathione supplementation and doing an IV version. So I literally just came back. I did it like an hour ago. And so I did glutathione and hyperbaric oxygen chamber. Those are kind of extreme things. Do I think the average person needs to do that? I don't know. It depends on how bad your brain damage is. And I'll tell you what, I'm better. The 2 most extreme things, the hyperbaric oxygen chamber and the glutathione, I've only done those for the last 4 months. So I think they probably have had the least effect. The greatest effect was the gut healing, the sleep, the less stress, the eating right. So what can you do to heal your gut before we wrap up? Here's what I did. First of all, for those of you who are in my diet beta test, because you're going on this journey with me. I mean, there's the only way I can live my life is by helping people understand what I've just been through. And to me, people who are still focused on their health by looking at their weight and focusing on what pant size they wear and how their abs look, and just ridiculous calorie restriction BS, and crushing your body and just pounding your body and exercising more and eating less, obsess, beat myself up. I am so against that now, I can't even tell you. That is so unhealthy, and it doesn't work. And it just makes us miserable. you'll never win that game. Sorry, you won't. And I'm sorry if I ever led you to believe that that's what you should do. I don't believe that. I think that what we have to do is heal our bodies. I think that we have to get rid of that mentality that our health has to do with our bodies, because it has to do with our brain, and our brain starts with our gut. So I think if we know where to start, then it's kind of like we're trying to fix the last link in the chain, as opposed to trying to figure out like where the chain is broken in the middle and where we should start. And it should really start with gut health. I'm gonna get a drink of water. So for me, the very first thing I had to do was, the things I'm teaching inside the Diet Beta group, and many of you are also listening to my podcast, you get to hear some of those experts, but we kind of take a deep dive inside the Diet Beta test. But to kind of generally summarize it for you, I removed all inflammatory foods. And there were a lot of foods that I didn't realize were inflammatory. I just wasn't paying attention to nutrients. So all vegetable oils, all grains. For me, I don't think that everyone has to do that. In fact, it's one of the things I teach inside the beta group is you have to figure out which things are inflammatory for you, because it doesn't make sense to remove them if they're not inflammatory for you. So for example, I had to remove quinoa. Most people, they're great on quinoa. For me, it was inflammatory. It was destroying my bowels. So I had to remove inflammatory foods. I just started diet phasing. You see, people they really want to hold on to that. I'm paleo, I'm vegan, I'm vegetarian, I'm ketogenic, I'm, whatever it is people say they want to claim they are. I think that's really unhealthy, because it's not what we were meant to do. We were meant to phase. Our diets were meant to be seasonal. It's how we live. No matter what diet is you think you is the only way, as soon as you attach a label to yourself, you're stuck. And you can't even listen to reasoning and common sense, because that would mean you're wrong. That would mean you're not who you are. My last name's Johnson, and if you're going to tell me my last name's Johnson, I don't want to hear that. I'm like, la, 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 la. That's how people are when they attach to a diet. And you've seen this. They just become it's the only way. It's the only right thing. Everything else is stupid. Everything else is dumb. What? That doesn't even make sense. Phase your diet. Figure out what works for you and phase it. To think that one diet is what you're supposed to hold on to for the rest of your life, good luck with that, boo-boo. The other thing I started focusing on was pre- and probiotics and eating fermented foods. And minerals that kind of restore the communication system inside our gut. Because we really don't know, frankly, if pre- and probiotics, how effective they are. We have trillions of little bugs and bacteria, good and bad, inside our gut. Trillions. And, we're talking about trying to repopulate a couple dozen amongst trillions. Is it helpful? Maybe. We don't know. We really don't know yet. All you can do is take those pre and probiotics and see how it helps for you. And then eating fermented foods. I also, in terms of healing my gut, I had to stop living that exercise. I was exercising 3 hours a day. And eating less and less and less. And not losing weight, not gaining weight. But I was okay, so where is this going to go? There aren't any more hours left to exercise. My body is falling apart. And I would like to eat something. It was just eat less. I just was on this cycle. I'm what in the... Who's going to... I can't keep doing this. Where's this going to go? And I had to figure out what exercise was right for me. And I also had to change. I had to fix my brain. While I was fixing my gut, I had to fix my brain, because that's just what we've been told. So, the first time when I didn't exercise for 2.5 hours in a day, I was I'm going to be so fat by Friday. I literally thought that. I'm I'm just not like the other girls. These, I have to exercise for hours. I don't have their metabolism. Yeah, I didn't have their metabolism because I had destroyed it. So I had to heal my gut in order to start to absorb those nutrients so that I could repair my metabolism, and in the process, fix my brain. Because your brain uses 20% of your energy expenditure each day. 20%. And you need all of those nutrients, and you're not getting any of them if your gut is destroyed, because you're eating fake foods. You're eating foods where they've removed the good stuff and they're fortifying it, which is totally bad for you, and they're fortifying with fake ingredients, and our, we're being marketed to with this. Just eat real foods, get outside, sleep more, spend time with the right people, reconnect with nature, eat real foods. Don't eat processed foods. What do I mean by processed? It's very, very simple. Don't eat things where the good things have been removed or bad things have been put in. I don't like it when people say, don't eat things that you can't pronounce. That doesn't work for me, because you know what? Most of you should be eating quinoa, and I couldn't pronounce quinoa the first time I read it. I was like, quinoa? Well, this looks interesting. Like, there's a lot of things we might not be able to pronounce that are perfectly healthy for us. So I don't know if that's the right answer. And I've also heard people say, well, don't eat anything that comes in a package or a bag. Well, I just brought home a bag full of Rainer's cherries in a bag. So should I not eat them? So I think the best way to look at it is to say, don't eat things that have had the good stuff removed or bad stuff put in. Right? That's all. That's a pretty good way to handle it. And that's how I've been able to heal my gut. I wish I could tell you which one of those things had the greatest impact. I kind of believe if you just focused on healing your gut, you would probably fix all those other areas anyways. Because if you're healing your gut, you're going to have to reduce your stress. You're going to have to sleep more. And you really need to eat right. So I think if I just had focused from the beginning on healing my gut, I would have been much more ready to take that test within a year as opposed to 2 years. But the bottom line is, I feel amazing. I'm so proud of my brain. I could cry. Because I don't want to have Alzheimer's. I don't want to be a space cadet. I hated the way I felt. I hated feeling so irritable. And like, if Brett would come in the room and like kiss me on the shoulder, I'd be like, what? Could you not tell that I was thinking? Or I would just force myself to be like, have a happy reaction if somebody interrupted me, but they didn't know that they were interrupting me, because I could literally be listening to you, but my brain was like so distracted or trying to figure something out. And I hated the way that felt. I was very frustrated with my brain. And I thought that was just my brain. I mean, I thought I didn't have a choice. And I can't imagine, I haven't been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I had not been. But I feel like it gave me a little taste of how terribly frustrating and powerless that must feel. And I want no part of that. So, I'm describing you. So what I want to say to you is this. Stop focusing on your weight. Stop exercising yourself to death. Let go of that food label that you're hanging on to as part of your identity. It's not serving you. I also want to say that you don't have the right to treat yourself so poorly. You don't have that right. It's not right. You've got to get yourself healthy, and I'm not talking about your weight. The weight may be a byproduct, but you've got to address your health. And that starts with the most important medicine we have available to us, our nutrition. You've got to eat whole. You've got to know what you're putting on your plate. You have to know about food. You've got to spend time with food. You need to be chopping food and smelling food and preparing food and thinking about how to take care of yourself. And when you take care of yourself, it's funny how everything else falls into place. You'll sleep better. You'll have more confidence. The weight will just fall off. You won't have to kill yourself in your workouts. And you have no excuses. You're buying the food. There's just no excuse. And if you're still trying to attack this from a weight loss perspective, you will be right where you are right now next year. You've got to attack this from a position of health. And if you start by looking at how you can heal your gut, it will all just start to make sense for you. I've been doing a whole series on this on my podcast. So even if I know a lot of you have been asking about getting into the Diet Beta test. We have a wait list. You can jump on that. We're almost done testing with this group that I'm working with right now. I've got like 15,000 people that we've been testing it. And people are like super annoyed, like, why are you testing it and testing it? Can't you just like release it? I can't. Why would I? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, it's got to be right. This isn't gimmick or fad. This isn't about weight loss. So if you're like dying to get into it because you have a bunch of weight to lose, move along to some other weight loss program, because this is about long-term health. It's about you living fuller. It's about your brain health. It's about feeling amazing. It's about getting over anxiety and depression and lack of focus. And it's about slowing our aging process. It's about diminishing disease markers. And that's not sexy to some people. Move along. That's, I'm there's lots of programs out there to serve you. I promise you that. But if you want to get on the wait list, you can just go to dietbetatest.com and you'll be the first one to know when we release it. But as I've said many times, this isn't a fad, so it's got to be right, and it's got to be based in science, and people have to go on their own journey when they go into this program, and you have to be willing to be a student, because you are a scientist, really, because it's about the study of one. Because who really cares what's working for somebody else if it doesn't work for you? You've got to study your body. You need to know what works. You have to figure out what makes you happy, and that's what we've been doing together. But in the meantime, while you're waiting for that, I try to include as much as I can about how to heal your gut in my podcast, The Chalene Show. So I hope that you'll listen to that, because you are beautiful and you are perfect, and God does not make mistakes, and we have to slow down and stop getting so caught up in all the rhetoric and the stupid pictures on Instagram and Facebook and people's bikini-clad beach photos. And like, who cares? Show me your brain. You want to impress me? Show me your brain. I'm not jealous of your bikini body, but I had a lot of brain envy. I saw those other people's scans when I was at the Amen Clinic, and I thought, oh, I want that brain so bad. I don't want this brain. I don't want this brain. And it's funny how by just focusing on improving my brain, I stumbled upon gut health, and it's changed every part of my life. Thanks for being here. I love you guys. Appreciate you. Yeah. Thanks, Holly. I love that you're here. Thank you. Hey, Sean. Thank you. What's up, Jimmy? Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. June 12th. Yep, it's on. I love you too. Thanks, Lolita. Yeah. Moms and dads. I don't know, someone said to me the other day, I'm eating this way, but I can't get my family to eat this way. I thought, are you the parent? It's poison. It's literally poison. We are literally poisoning our children with just processed junk. You know, we have to change that. I don't know about you, but I was never bothered when my children were angry with me if I was doing something that was to protect them. You wouldn't care if your kid was like throwing a tantrum because they're like, I want to play in the street where the cars are. You wouldn't care. You'd be like, well, I'm your mom. And I said, no. So get in the house, go to your room. We're not debating it. Like you just handle it. It's funny how we're not like that with food. We're like, oh, but little Johnny loves his cheese puffs. Like, it's poison. So work on it. I know it's a process. It's a lot easier though when it comes with education. Like when someone tells you like rules to follow, I'm that way anyways. Like when someone tells me rules, I'm like, show me the science. Like I don't like to be told what to do. I like to like show me the proof. So that's why I think the Diet Beta people have had such amazing success, because they're looking at the science, and I'm not telling them what to do. They're figuring it out for themselves, and it's different for everyone, which is kind of fun. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for spending your Friday night with me. Yeah, subscribe to my podcast. I've got a really good one coming out tomorrow. I'll just give you a little heads up. So tomorrow on my podcast, The Chalene Show, I have a gentleman who is the founder of a company that takes all supplements, the popular ones, and tests them and then rates them on if they really have in them what they say they have in them, their efficacy, ranks the value, tests. He basically reverse engineers the production of all of these different like meal replacement shakes, protein shakes, all the vitamins you take, all the popular ones, and then breaks them apart and then ranks them so you know which ones are like legit and which ones are selling you like nothing, basically a placebo pill. So he's going to be on my podcast tomorrow, and you can learn about how you can check on your favorite supplement, protein shake, protein bar, vitamin, etc. Probiotics even. Yeah, he's looking at probiotics too, which is kind of cool. He said the next thing he's going to look at is dog food. I'm like, I like that. That's cool. Yeah, that should be up tomorrow. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. All right, there's a lot of comments that I didn't get to read while I was going through tonight's lesson. I don't know if that's what you want to call it, whatever, tonight's video. So I'm going to go back and read some of your comments now. So jump in, and if you see other people's comments, give them thumbs up, and we'll both jump in there and talk to each other. Again, thanks for being here with me, and thanks for staying the whole time. Oh my gosh. Love you guys. Have a good night. Bye.